You have disabled my ability to share my screen, David. Apparently.
Try that.
Ah, there we go. All right, now. And once again, I cannot see, just like last night when we tried this. Okay, hold on, I gotta try something. Got it. Okay, now it's gonna be a little different without hearing your feedback a little bit. So if I laugh at my own jokes, I apologize, but that's how it goes. So as David said, I coined this word ornithangelism because I was trying to think of a way to describe what my life mission is after I retired from teaching. And I knew I wanted to get people involved in birds. I became the board president of the Monterey Bay Birding Festival and all the other stuff that David said. I work with Cornell, developing curriculum. I teach teachers how to teach bird watching and so on. So I actually have on my business card, it says I'm an ornithangelist. And so when Randy Harwood asked me to do a talk for your group, the first thing I thought of was the importance of ornithangelism, that I can't be the only one out there doing it. And so I wanted to talk tonight about why we must fledge new birders. Of course, I have to use a birding term there, and how to do it. Because I'm a teacher, I have experience getting people excited about what they're going to be studying or get involved with. So here we go. So I'm going to start with a challenge. Can you find a person of color or anyone under 40 in this photo? And hopefully your screen's big enough, you can give it a good look. I'm waiting. All right, if you're really paying attention, you might find a couple people under 40 in there, maybe. But I don't really see any people of color in there. And that's a problem. That just like when women didn't have the right to vote, we're ignoring a huge part of the population who could be participating. How about here? Or think about the meetings you had pre-COVID-19. When you looked around the room, did you see people of color or young people? I know at the meetings that I go to in Monterey or Santa Cruz, where I live, you know, it's a bunch of gray heads. It's people that look like me. And that's a problem. We're leaving a lot of people out. And recent events, of course, with the incident with Chris Cooper and Central Park in New York, brought attention to the reluctance of many people of color to get involved in an activity like birding. In many ways, they feel unwelcome. And the same is true for young people. This is a hobby or a pastime that requires sometimes expensive equipment. It requires study and so on, and people feel left out. So I want to help you understand how to make people comfortable and welcome in this activity that we all love and are excited about. So I'll state the obvious. The majority of birders are white and older. So what? At least we don't have to deal with those pesky kids who are always scaring away the birds, right? Isn't that the right answer? No, that's the wrong answer. Because if we really care about birds, we should be thinking about who's going to lead the field trips, who's going to take up leadership positions, and most importantly, who's going to fight the good fight of conservation as we age and as our demographics change. We need to be able to replace ourselves. Any good leader is always looking for the person to replace them as they, you know, work their way through their position. And we need to do the same. And the truth is that that means a younger person, and increasingly that means people of color. Here's the other reason we need to be ornithangelists, is because the world is in trouble. In 2016, there was a report done called State of the Birds, and it was based on the first ever conservation vulnerability assessment. In other words, what's going to happen to these species of birds for all 1,154 native bird species that occur in Canada, the United States, and Mexico. So we're talking almost the entirety of North America. This was a huge study, took a lot of people working on it, And the assessment was compiled by teams of experts from all three countries. So people who knew the birds in their own countries. Of these 1,154 species, notice in red, 432 qualified for the watch list. In other words, they're in trouble. That's the highest conservation concern based on high vulnerability scores across multiple factors. You know, it could be habitat loss, hunting, invasive species. It could be, climate change is a huge one. And that is 37% of all the birds in North America are on the watch list. That's not good. that's a third of all birds, a little bit more than a third of all bird species in North America. I don't know about you, but that worries me. Missing 3 billion birds. Does that ring a bell? I know we've had a lot of things on our minds in the last few months, especially COVID-19 and what's going on there. There's a lot of political things going on, North Korea, Russia, China, there's all this stuff going on. And we may have forgotten, but in September 2019, we all got this gut punch from the study that's showing that 3 billion birds have gone missing since 1970. This was released just a few days before we had our Monterey Bay Birding Festival, and it became a major driving force for the people who were there to connect and do something about this. So we all remember that, right? Hopefully you heard the report and know something about it. Here's the sad part. This was under our watch, our stewardship. Some of you may be older than me, and the Vietnam War and civil rights were the big thing in your life, but I'm 61. I grew up more in the 70s was when I became more aware. And to me, it was the environmental movement. It was ecology and the Endangered Species Act and things like that, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and so on, that got me excited about doing something for my country and our world. And this is really disturbing that since 1970, we've lost 3 billion birds. We thought we had this handled. Didn't we save the whales? I mean, we did a good job on some things, but others we failed. And grassland birds have taken the greatest hit. I'm bringing this up because in a few minutes, I'm going to talk about Madrona Marsh. But grassland birds have taken the greatest hit. Some 700 million individual birds across 31 species have vanished since 1970. That's a 53% drop in grassland birds. Let that sink in for a second. So that's not good. More than half of the birds that live in grasslands have disappeared in North America. Might as well put your hands up and surrender, right? I mean, we're losing, aren't we? Look at all these things that are happening during our lifetime. The 6th grade extinction. Remember the burning of the Amazon? Or have we forgotten all about that already? There's so many other things happening. Record-breaking heat waves, ocean acidification. I used to teach marine science too, so a lot of these have to do with the ocean. Rising sea levels, microplastics, toxic chemicals. We're facing massive losses of insects, fish, and mammals. This does not look good. You could probably add 10 more things to this without much thought. So now I've got all depressed. So Edward O. Wilson says conservation biology is a discipline with a deadline. In other words, time is running out and we've got to do something different. And in more common language, going back to the 80s, this ain't no party, this ain't no disco, this ain't no fooling around, no time for dancing or lovey-dovey. I ain't got time for that now. So if you remember the Talking Heads, this is about life during wartime. This is kind of a war. It's a war on nature, and I'm hoping that we can do something about it. So getting to Madrona Marsh. The preserve is a perfect example of how we are not doing enough. I know that sounds weird because it's something to be proud of. I worked really hard to help preserve it when I was in high school. The preserve used to be a small part of a 164-acre parcel that was mostly grassland. In 1966, at age 8, I moved to within a block of the corner of Sepulveda and Crenshaw. So many of you know that area. This sprawling, mostly fallow property became my nature classroom. Where are those places for future generations of both people and animals now? The falconer, who lived next door to me at that time, used to fly his hawks there. I saw my first snowy egrets, loggerhead shrikes, and long-billed curlews here, which I thought to be the most exotic birds in the world. At dusk, I followed families of skunks around, at a distance, of course. And once in a panic, I single-handedly beat out a wildfire with a broken off eucalyptus branch to try and save my animal friends. Now, the preserve is 43 acres. To those who know the preserve, I know it seems a triumph. But I cried the day they decided to develop the other 121 acres. Even the building that many of you meet in and the parking lot to me seemed a huge loss. The point of this story is that we need to continue to fight the slow but steady loss of habitat and species. This is how we lost 3 billion birds, little by little. And we need to carry on this fight everywhere we can with everyone we can. So, are you going to give up? Not me. So, how can we possibly win? Well, here's my solution. We need a bigger army. And obviously not this kind of army, but we need this many people of all races, ages, creeds, colors, political positions, whatever. We need people to help us win this war. We need recruits. I taught biology for many years, and in biology we talk about recruitment when we're talking about a population sizes. And recruitment occurs when a juvenile organism joins a population. It can be by birth, so maybe you've given birth to a new bird watcher, or by immigration, someone who's moved into the area and you want to teach them to be a birder. So recruitment sounds like a beginning birder to me. So this is where we start our work. We do face some problems with getting people involved in birding. If you look at the picture on the left there, many, many, many people grow up with little or no exposure to nature. I had 164 acres a block away from me when I was growing up to run around in and discover all kinds of things. But if you look at that neighborhood, that's what a lot of the LA basin looks like. And many other parts of California and other parts of the world. And not a lot of nature there. In fact, most of the plants there are probably in exotics that don't even, are not native to California. Another problem is young people are especially attracted to their electronic devices. And I fought this every day in my classroom when I was teaching. This particular picture I took myself. I was on a trip to Antarctica where I was working with young people on an expedition cruise. And right at the moment I took this picture, all the adults were scrambling to go outside to see a pod of 10 fin whales. It was spectacular. And I looked down and all the kids that I was, trying to introduce to nature were all glued to their phones. And I yelled at them. I said, "Come on, let's go outside and look at the whales." And they said, "That's okay. We're looking at our phones." And they just sat there. So I understand it's hard to compete with this. Later on, of course, they fell in love with penguins and all the other stuff that we saw down there, and they put down their phones occasionally, but it's tough. It's hard to compete with. However, we recruiters have secret weapons. We have beauty. I mean, come on, look at those birds. They're spectacular. And, when they're 15, 20, 50 feet away without binoculars, pretty hard to see. But once you pick up a pair of binoculars and you know how to use them, wow, it'll knock your eyes out. It's just incredible to see these kinds of birds. And you all know that, but we have to introduce other people to this. We can use curiosity. I mean, if you look at the two pictures on the left and right, that's some pretty weird looking trees. And people might wonder, what are we looking at here? Or how about that? A duck in a tree. Not a lot of people realize that there's a number of species of ducks that nest in trees. Everyone thinks of a mallard. And, of course, here we've got a wood duck, but there are other species that do this too. So we can use curiosity to get people interested, and then that leads them into being more interested and wanting to find out what's going on. Okay, one of my favorites, a curlew. I remember when I saw my first curlew in the field near Madrona Marsh, and I remember I saw this bird with this amazing bill and landed on my belly, crawled through the grass to get closer to it, thought I was being an army man or something. And I just couldn't believe what my eyes were seeing. I'd never dreamed there was a bird like this. Or how about a nuthatch hanging upside down from a branch and creeping head first down a tree? You know, most people miss those things because they're not looking. And as birders, we know they're out there and we know where to look for them, and we can introduce people to this incredible curiosity. One of the main ways many kids get involved in bird watching is through their fascination with hawks. I have to admit that was the way I got introduced. My next door neighbor was a falconer, and I got to see him fly his hawks and catch animals with it. And it's kind of a morbid fascination, but when I see a hawk diving after a flock of shorebirds, I can't turn away. I have to watch it. And it's just something about, I don't know, maybe human nature. And that's a way to get people interested too. You know, in ocean studies, it's usually sharks. With birds, it's hawks. So we'll use that to our advantage. How about awe? I mean, first time you see a condor like this, your jaw just drops open. I remember in South America, I saw my first Andean condor. We were driving a car and we were just about to go over a little rise, and two condors flew by at eye level. And I swear to God, the first thought I had was, what are two small airplanes doing out there? So this is an amazing sight, and not everyone will get to see it, but it's a way to capture people's imagination and get them hooked on birding. And of course, they're surprised. You know, I took the picture on the left. Those are scrub jay eggs, and I never dreamed what they looked like. I saw a scrub jay fly out of a tree at eye level, and I thought, how did it let me get so close without squawking at me? And then it dawned on me, oh, it's hiding something. And I pulled away a small branch, and there were these eggs, and I just couldn't believe how beautiful they were. I was really impressed. And then, of course, I wish I had taken the picture on the right of the owl. I'm still looking for a screech owl looking out of a tree at me like this. But wouldn't it be cool to look at a tree and all of a sudden you notice it has eyes looking back at you? These are really great ways to get people hooked. And I really believe that we will never scare people into protecting nature, but they will fight for something they love. So we've got that on our side. We get them interested, they start loving birds, and then they'll help us start protecting them. So how do we get people, especially those underrepresented, like people of color and young people, to love birds? Well, I came up with a formula, and I'm going to walk you through it here. So it's invite, teach, encourage, repeat. So the fourth one's pretty self-explanatory, but the first three, I'll get into some detail. So the first thing is to invite. If you know people of color or have young people in your life, reach out and ask them to go birding with you. It's not that hard. People need guides. It's very hard for someone with no experience to step forward and say, please take me birding. It has to be on us. So I'm asking you to be their guides and invite people to do this. I try to do it as often as I can. And I just found out that this week is Latino Conservation Week. You probably remember a few weeks ago was Black Birders Week. This is Latino Conservation Week. And what better way to get people interested in conservation than through birding? So looks like you've got till the 26th. That's 5 more days. So if you know someone who's Latino, who's not a birder, please invite them. So that's your way in. So if you don't know people of color or a young person, look for people walking by or people watching you watch birds. We've all had that experience. You're out watching birds and you feel like someone's looking at you. You turn around and someone's like, "What?" Looking at you like, what is he doing? Or what are they up to? And so I say, ask them or say, come and check out what I see. It's pretty cool. So you invite them to look at what you're looking at. And you can say, here, try these $2,000 binoculars. Just kidding. Or not. I like to let people use my binoculars. I know it's always a risk, but I always tell them, please put the strap around your neck, and I ask them to look at it, look through there, and let them see what they see. They usually become instantly excited about it, and they want to show the person they're with, and so on. And it starts a conversation. And I think we can all do that a little bit more than we're already doing. I'd like you to contact a local school and offer to take a class birding. It's a little nerve-wracking, but it's fun. Contact a Boys and Girls Club or a scout troop. These are kids who need leadership, who need someone to guide them into this world of wonder that we know about. I just want to point out, since I mentioned Boy Scouts there, I was a Boy Scout. And those of you who are Boy Scouts, you may remember this. Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, thrifty, cheerful, brave, clean, and reverent. And I want to mention the brave part because being brave means doing something that makes you uncomfortable, but that you know is good. Find a school, club, or troop in a part of your community where you suspect there are not many birders and make your offer there. That takes bravery, but you can do it. Kids are kids, whether they look like you or not, or wherever you find them. Really, I've taught in schools where the population was 99% Black. I was the whitest person there. And I got along with those kids. They're just like kids anywhere else. And just try it. You'll find out that you're going to be okay. And it's a great way to welcome people into the hobby that you love. Make the effort to reach out. You can do it. If you're shy, do it with a birding friend. Teamwork is always easier. There's strength in numbers. So make an effort to reach out to these people. Heech. Okay, so you can see the kid on the right there. He's having a little trouble understanding how to use his binoculars. So I say show them how to use them. Think about it. You have to know whether you want the eye cups up or down. People don't know this automatically. You need to know how to adjust the diopter so that one eye or both eyes are focused correctly. What about interpupillary distance? A lot of people know there's a hinge, but they don't know what it's for. So taking a few minutes to explain these things can really help someone out. Show them how to listen and look, how not to lose the thing you saw flitting into the branches, how you keep your eye on it and you raise the binoculars in front of your eyes so that you don't lose it. Teach them to listen and to use their eyes to look for movement. You know, not everyone knows these tricks. And as experienced birders, we can go a long way in helping people do that. A little bit of instruction goes a long way in making it easier for beginners because they really are beginners. Okay, I'm probably going to get some pushback on this, but I'm going to say forget field guides at this point. I've spent almost 10 years now working with Cornell, mostly remotely, but I'm on their advisory board. And so of course I'm going to push a Cornell product, which is Merlin, but I'm not getting paid to do this. It's because I have a lot of experience with young people. And if you pick up a field guide with no instruction, that's really hard to use. If you don't know that the bird you're looking at is a curlew, how do you look it up? You know, I use the Nat Geo field guide with my students because there's a flap in the front and the back that shows pictures of birds. And literally that's how they used it. Because they look at the bird and say, oh, it looks like that. But most of these other field guides, they don't have that. You have to know the names. So you have to already be advanced to use it. Merlin is really simple. You turn it on and it knows the date and the place where you're at if you're using it on your phone. Then you answer a couple of questions like the size of the bird compared to, and they even give you pictures. Then you pick out a few colors. You answer a question about what the bird's doing, like sitting on a branch. Is it on the ground? Is it swimming? Is it flying? You punch it in and it tells you what bird you're looking at. Now, it's not perfect, but it works really well, especially for beginners. That is a really easy way to access the information that they want to know. People want to know what it's called. Not everyone, of course, but a lot of people do. Now, I want to stop here and tell a story about a friend of mine who's actually watching right now. Uh, she and I talk about this a lot, about ornithangelism. And she went to a place last week to buy a pretzel at a bakery. And she and the person working in the bakery were the only ones there. And my friend had also gone to look at a population of Heermann skulls. It's the only nesting population of Heermann skulls north of Mexico. And it's in Seaside, California, and near Monterey. And while she was talking to this young lady, she had her binoculars on, and she turned around and looked at the Heermann skulls that were on a nearby roof because they've just fledged. And the woman asked her about it, and she told her all about this very, very special colony of birds that are living here in this one small place in California. And the woman told her that she's really excited about birds and interested, but she loves figuring out what kind of bird it is, but it's hard using a field guide. So my friend told her all about Merlin, and being a young person who's very comfortable with digital devices, immediately downloaded it onto her phone, and she made a convert. She made an instant convert, and the woman working in the bakery told my friend, this absolutely was the best part of my day. And my friend told me it was the best part of her day hearing that. So everybody wins when you do something like this. So I would highly recommend downloading Merlin, learning how to use it. And I want to say, please don't be judgmental about field guides. I know a lot of us grew up using field guides and it's the old school way, and you got to toughen up and just do it. But we want to be helpful, not judgmental. So let's help this group of people access the hobby that we love the easiest way possible. All right, independence. So this is a teaching thing where you teach a skill and then you let them try it. And you may have to coach them a little bit, but show them and then step back and let them do it on their own. Let them identify the bird. Let them find one. You can see the girl in the middle there. She's having a little trouble with the look on her face. But it's really something when they get to identify one themselves. And you can always say, I don't know what it is. And you say, tell me what you see. And then they start telling you what they see. And then you put it into Merlin, and lo and behold, boom, they've identified their first bird. And once they've done that, you can give them the thumbs up, an elbow bump, you can do the hokey pokey, whatever it is to celebrate what they've done, but praise them for having done it. Let them know, wow, they really did something great. When I taught ornithology, almost always, every year, the first bird we'd identify was a brewer's blackbird. And I know you're thinking, oh, whoopee, big deal, the blackbird, woohoo! But I had to find a way to make it exciting. So I always said, oh my God, look at that bird. Look at its eye, it's yellow. That's so different. And I know some of you are saying it's really white, but it looks yellow from a distance. And they'd say, yeah, so, and I said, well, look at it. And they'd look through their binoculars and I say, see, it's really different from other blackbirds because it has this different colored eye. And that's how you know it's a brewer's blackbird. And it was so funny because months later, I would hear kids walking across campus and some kids say, get out of the way, stupid blackbird. And one of the other kids say, hey, that's a brewer's blackbird, because it has this colored eye. So they get to own this thing. They take ownership of their knowledge. So let them have some independence. Okay, here's another really important thing. You have to leave them with something to take away. Now, you're looking at the picture of the coot there, and you have to tell them something cool about it. And I know coots are really common, but they're pretty awesome too. You can tell them about the red spot on the top of their bill. You can tell them about their awesome feet. I mean, look at those feet. They're so weird looking, but they're really cool. They're lobed. They're not webbed, they're lobed. They're different. And if you tell that about them, tell them something about this, then they can walk away with something that they can tell someone else. That's the important thing about giving them something to take away. I mean, if that doesn't work, you can always tell them it's the ivory-billed bird of paradise and have a good laugh about it. So they can use that joke on somebody else. So give them something to take away. So make it special so they will tell someone else. Oh, and by the way, I just wanted to tell you, you're all really good listeners. I just wanted to add that in. Okay, encourage. Encourage them with examples. Tell them why you like birding. Something, it's something beautiful like the vermilion flycatcher. It's something awesome like that osprey diving for its prey. It's something incredible like the merganser mother with all those chicks, or the color of the oriole, the tininess of the hummingbird nest, or the cliff swallows getting mud to build a nest with, mouthful by mouthful. These are all things that you could tell someone else why you are interested in birding, why it's important to you. And of course, everyone's going to have their own example. And I've got thousands of them that, inspire me. So use that to tell the people that, this is an awesome thing, and this is why I get out of bed every day to go bird watching, or this is why I go to festivals, this is why I attend talks in the evenings, and so on. Tell them why you're excited about it so they can own that too. All right, so one of the things I'm going to ask you to do before you go to bed tonight is I want you to download Merlin onto your phone if you have a smartphone. And if you don't, it's time to get a smartphone. You can all use one. So download the app and learn how to use it. And there's great tutorials on eBird. You can go, or the Cornell website. Fantastic tutorials. In fact, I help work on some of those. And hopefully you'll learn to use Merlin. And yes, I expect you to learn how to do this because you are an ambassador now. You're going to be helping bring more people in. So hopefully you'll do a good job with that. Okay, buy binoculars. Buy someone a pair of binoculars, a decent pair. Don't be stingy with your money. I had an aunt a long time ago who told me they made the dollar round to keep it rolling. And I know, of course, the dollar's not round anymore unless you're a coin collector. But I believe if you've got the money to do it, be generous with it. Buy a class set and give it to a school, or for the nature center, or for this Audubon chapter. It'd be nice to have a pair of binoculars that they could share around to different places and with different people. Of course, now we have to be careful, make sure they're all clean and so on with the COVID thing, but the idea still stands. How about giving some to a homeless shelter? There are kids there too, and they need something to do. Pool your resources. Do it with a friend if you can't afford to do it by yourself. Give them to kids for Christmas, Hanukkah, birthdays, or just because you want to be their favorite aunt or grandparent. Are you really going to let the other grandparents win with a video game or a new iPhone? Come on, give them some binoculars. They'll love them. And in fact, the picture on the right are my cousins. When I first came up with this idea, I said to myself, you can't be a hypocrite, do it yourself. So I went out and bought them binoculars and took them birding. And by the way, their brother got a pair too. So I bought all three of them a pair. And it was so much fun going birding with them. And you can see their mom took this picture right when they took them out of the box. That is a genuine look of surprise and joy on their face. I really asked the mom, was this staged? She said, no, they were just so excited. So buy them some binoculars. You'll get a lot back from it. I promise. Now we come to repeat. Start over with someone new. So after you've converted one person, start with somebody else. Spread the joy and love and ask your converts to pay it forward. This is one of my classes of ornithology class I taught at Gilroy High a few years ago. And I've heard from many of these students that they take their boyfriends out bird watching, or their girlfriend, their buddies. Some of them are in college and started a bird watching club. It's incredible. You got to ask them to pay it forward too, and they will. Kids are incredible. They'll do amazing things. So it's that simple. You get the idea, right? Start a ripple in a pond. Are you ready to change the world for the better? These are the resources, and hopefully you can look this up later if you don't already know these things. eBird has a really great resources for young birders you can look at. Merlin, of course, the eBird.org. And if you're feeling uneasy about this, if you have a buddy, do it with them. But tonight, before you turn off your computer, invite a fellow birder to join you on your mission. So email them, text them, Twitter, whatever thing you use, send them a letter, call them on the phone. And now you will have a friend. And I will invite you to what I call the Fellowship of the Wing. This is something we did at my festival last October, and I invite people to join me being ornithangelists. So make it your mission. You can be a birding superhero, just like these two. I can see some of you right now putting on this costume and going out and saving the world. Questions? Okay, I did it. I'm ready for your questions if you have any.
Thank you, Jeff. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
So if anybody has any questions, you can unmute yourselves and go ahead.
Oh, how do I get back to the? Okay, here we go. Oh, stop share. There we go. Ah, there we go. All right. Still learning how to do this.
So I have a question. This is Rob Friedrich.
Yeah.
Where that, just out of curiosity, that housing tract that you used the picture of is nothing there except houses. Where was that?
Yeah. I got the picture off Google. I have no idea. But,
yeah,
you know, I grew up in Torrance. I now live in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And every time I go home, if I fly, which isn't very often, I usually drive down. But if I fly, you know, anybody who's flown into LAX, you know, you look down, it's almost all homes. It looks like that from the air. So, yeah. Sorry, I can't answer that question.
No, that's okay. Thank you. It just was impressive. That's all.
Yeah.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
What size binoculars do you recommend for kids of different ages, and how do you figure that out?
That's a great question. I worked with high school kids, and even they were complained a little bit about the weight of the binoculars. So I was really lucky. Celestron worked out a deal with me. I got a class set donated by Celestron, which is right up the street from Torrance. And but I used 8x32s with them, which were quite adequate. They're pretty inexpensive. They're about $100 a pair back then. I don't know what they're going for now, but you know, you can buy the smaller. I mean, I birded for 20 years with an 8x20 monocular. The first pair of binoculars I had were so out of alignment that they made me dizzy, but I didn't know that. I thought binoculars make me dizzy. So I bought a monocular and I used it for years until I finally bought a decent pair of binoculars and wow, hey, they work. So even a monocular is a great way to start.
How about kids who are, say, in elementary school, 6 or older?
Yeah, you can get smaller 8x20s, you know, just something that will magnify. I mean, they're not going to be great in all conditions, like in the dark or, you know, at dusk or dawn or in a forest, but they still work. And 8x20s, you know, they're much lighter and easier to carry around. And I would suggest an 8x20 probably. And there's, you know, a million different brands you can choose from depending on how much you want to spend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Any other questions out there?
Of course, people can write me messages. Yeah, go ahead.
Question is, I belong to the South Bay Bird Society where we have companion parrots, and there's very few birders. In fact, I'm brand new. I'm not an experienced birder. Have you ever spoken to a group like that and interest them? Because part of our charter is to improve the environment for wild birds.
Yeah, that's great. I haven't. I mostly run into birders who are, you know, going out to look at wild birds. So, and I don't own any pets myself, so I'm not sort of in that world, but you know, I think that's a great idea. And, you know, if you wanted to have me speak to your group, I would happily do it. So, I mean, I'm an ornithangelist. I have to get out and spread the word.
You're a good teacher. And I've been
Thank you. I appreciate that.
putting in our monthly newsletter about the Audubon Society and all of the bird watching that's going on in the area to help spread the word. But that would be a good introduction. You're very,
Yeah,
very
well,
good instructor.
thank you. As far as I know, David has recorded tonight's presentation, and I'm fine with letting him use it for that. Share it with whoever you want.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Hey, Jeff, this is Rob again. I have another comment. It's not a question, but
Okay.
yeah, I was impressed with your talk. I like your ideas on teaching. I'm the president of a volleyball unit, referee unit, and we have the problem.
Nice.
We have the problem of recruitment and retention. So some of your ideas on the recruitment really hit home, and I'm going to try and incorporate those. We're having a meeting Thursday, actually. And incorporate that and see if we can work some of that into our recruitment efforts. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And they could be birders too.
Yeah, they could be. They could be. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it works for anything. You know, people, they need their hand held a little bit in the beginning and made to feel comfortable and invited. All those things are really important. And, you know, you can't always play. I played volleyball in college, so I love volleyball, but, you know, it's important to make people feel comfortable. And, you know, when you play the hotshot birder around beginners, it's just intimidating to them. You have to be friendly and open and praising towards them when they do something good to make them feel that they want to be involved.
Yeah, that's so true. First of all, would you like to join our unit? We're looking for referees. And second of all,
I live in Santa Cruz. It might be a little difficult.
That's okay. There's a unit up there, I'm sure. And second of all, yeah, I agree with that, because some of, let's say, some of our more skilled people and more higher rated officials have a tendency to tell you what you're doing wrong all the time. And they can lecture you for 20, 30 minutes on what you're doing wrong and how to do it right, and never tell you how to do it right. So, you know, I like your approach. I really do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I just want to say thank you. I was a biology teacher, and I got to teach one course that was not really common, and I thoroughly enjoyed helping to make up the curriculum. I wondered how you got permission to start this new ornithology class. Was it difficult to get approval from the state?
Oh yeah. Yes, it was. It was quite difficult. And luckily, my principal backed me 100%. We had the school I taught at, we had a lot of really interesting elective classes. And I'd already started a marine science class years before, which was super popular. So starting the ornithology class, which was something I dreamed of my whole life, I thought, what the heck? What do I have to lose? So I just asked. And it was hard getting it through the board. I had to have it approved by the state. And I'm trying to pass it off to others. I've gotten probably a half dozen teachers across the US now involved in teaching it. And I was scheduled to teach or to speak at the National Science Teachers Convention in April, but it got canceled because of the COVID thing. I want to tell a real quick story about how I got involved in birds, because this might help some of the others, some of the rest of you. When I was about 6 years old, my mom bought me one of those Gold Nature Series books, really thin little bird book. You know, it's very, very basic. And I don't remember being excited about it or anything, but one day we were eating breakfast and there were some birds out on the patio, and my mom said, "What's that bird?" And I said, I don't know. She said, "Go get your bird book." So I got my bird book and she got me to look it up. And I have no idea. I mean, I could have said golden eagle. I don't know, you know. I think I said house finch or house sparrow or something. And she just praised me so much. She said, "Oh my gosh, you are so smart. That's so wonderful." And then days later, she did it again with some other bird. And that's what made me want to be a birder, is because I was pleasing my mom, and she praised me for doing that. So that's a really good lesson, that praise goes a long way, a lot more than no, you're wrong, that's stupid. So please, when you start with new birders, be praiseful. Is that a word? Give them a lot of pats on the back. It'll go a long way.
Encouragement. It's behavior.
Yes, thank you.
It's behavior modification, and you, as a
okay.
use that a lot, and we use it with our companion parrots as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you have a question, Melissa?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks, Jeff, for sharing your enthusiasm. I'm the manager at Madrona Marsh Preserve and Nature Center, and we would love to have you once we're reopened after COVID to come speak. This is a big passion of mine and some of our staff, our team. We're just in the process of starting to work with some young birders on doing Western bluebird projects or observations, but I definitely agree, young birders and getting them excited about it. And I would love to reach out to you and work with you in the future. And thank you for sharing all your knowledge.
I'd love to. I get down there a couple times a year. My dad lives near Torrance, or Sepulveda and Crenshaw is still there. So I come down and see my dad, and my brother and sister both live in Southern California. And so I'd happily do it. Just let me know when.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay. Are there any other questions out there? And of course, I think Gala mentioned this, but when bird walks start again, after things get better, those would be a great way to get people interested in birding, and we have bird walks listed on our website. So just check our website for when they start again. So
I'm still listing it every month in the newsletter.
Thank you, Gala. We do appreciate that. So, okay, well, thank you, Jeff. That was wonderful. We do appreciate you speaking tonight on such short notice.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Great, very good. Thank you.